In this video I'm going to show how I rig a pair of high heel shoes. First, I import an object that I already modeled with Genesis in the foot pose that I saved out before. There we go. And you can see I used the left heel shoe pose controls for that, and there's a reason why, which I'll explain a bit later. So I'm going to put Genesis female, bake the joint rotations, and then I'm going to use the transfer utility and transfer the shoes from Genesis to, and I'm not using any projection template. I found using none works best. General doesn't always work. Okay, now I'm going to save the shoes. Alright, I gave it the data name, and since this is the first one, I'm going to give an 01 so that I can save incrementally. Now I'm going to create a new document, not just delete the items, but actually create a new one. Load Genesis and load the shoes, and it'll come in wonky, but that's okay, we're going to fix that. So you can see it's not quite fitting yet, but at least when I put the pose on, the shoes looks okay. Now that I've got a shader on to see any texture distortions, I'm going to see what it looks like with the foot down. Okay, so you can see there's a little bit of a kink, but that's fine since the shoes are never going to be not meant to be flat. They are meant to be in a pose. I'm going to paint 100% weight map onto the heel. And tidy it up around the heel area so that there's not a lot of distortions when you pose. Okay, I should probably turn off JCMs on Genesis. Alright. Always weight map with the JCMs turned off so that you can get the best result possible before you start working on JCMs. Okay, I need to get the buckle minimize distortion on the buckle as much as I can. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to put 100% on there. Yeah, well, much better. That'll give me a buckle that's not distorted. That's going to be the hardest part to fix in JCMs. Okay, now I've got to do the toes. Ideally I want all the weight mapping for the toes to be in the main body group for the toe and not in the little toe bones. So I'm going to select the left foot, and then I'm going to lock the weight maps for the foot and the metatarsals, because all I want is for the toes to be affected. And then I'm going to full select it at 100% and unlock the weight maps again for metatarsals and foot, and now I can smooth it out. Now when I move the toe bones, I don't have all the little toe bones moving independently and distorting the shoe. smooth it out there as well. And this is why it's good to have a texture map on while you're weight mapping, because you can see where the problem areas are going to be, and as a minimum at least get an even texture map with no pinching in it. Alright, that's as good as I'm going to get in. Alright, apply the pose again. Okay, zero out the pose now, and I'm going to create a zero pose because I want to lock that as the main shape, and you'll see why in a little bit. Alright, I get it perfectly. I've got the toes pointing up because I don't want that that little distortion in the OBJ there, and the foot's usually going to be with the toes in this position. Export the zero pose. Alright, now I'm going to import the pose. With reverse deformation on, of course. And I'm going to rename it to left so that I know which side is which. And that should be 100, both, because I want it to be activated full in any foot pose. So now I have the zero pose correct, and of course it distorts now when you have the other poses, but it's in a good position with no poke throughs when the foot is at zero bends. Okay, now I want to transfer rigging to the right side of the shoe, so I'm going to do the same with the toes, lock the foot metatarsals, and just fill the weight. And then I have to unlock it, which is why this is not working right away. I have to unlock the poses I just did. Alright, now that it's transferred and both shoes have the same weight mapping, I want to duplicate the pose to the right side, the zero pose. Put the toes up. Now the advantage of shoes is if they're symmetrical, you can mirror from the one side to the other, which makes it a lot easier to rig. You only have to rig one shoe. Okay, now I'm going to take the zero pose again, and I'm going to make one for the right side. And morph mirroring and reverse deformation on, of course. So I'm going to do left to right, I'm going to do the same with setting it to 100% and locking it. Okay, now it's locked. Okay, I'm going to import a copy of the original shoe to see how far off the shape I am right now. And it's getting pretty close, but there's some fixes to be done. I already set the limit on Genesis to 75, so I can point the foot all the way down. And I'm going to do a fix for the foot down at 75 left. Alright, there's a fair amount of fixing to be done there. You see, maybe it'll be better to just turn it off and get the minimum amount of distortions. Alright, I turned the JCM on again after I exported it, and now I'm fixing it as good as I can in the modeler. Import it with reverse deformations on. Right, there we go. Now the buckle's a little bit distorted, so I'm actually going to turn off the collision item for Genesis and collide the shoe against nothing. Turn smoothing on and export another version, because I want to use the base shape smoothing that Does Studio is doing to OBJs. Alright, so gotta fix this a little bit, get the buckle as straight as possible. Much better. Okay. Now I have to repeat it on the other side. Bend the foot down all the way, and I forgot actually to change Victoria to Genesis to minus 75, which then of course means that the morph is not going to work correctly, but I'll show how to fix it easily. Left to right, and there, so it looks wrong, and I realize I have to change the foot to 75. And now I'm just going to do exactly the same thing. Reverse deformations on, morph mirroring left to right, and perfect. Okay, so the last morph JCM to fix is when the foot is bent up. Now I already exported and fixed it in my modeler, so I'm just going to import it with reverse deformations on. And there we go. Now because I had the other foot bent up as well, I have to use the geometry editor to remove the morph, those vertices from the morph. So you go to the morph that's being used, favorite it, and then right click and clear selected deltas, which will then remove any vertices that's getting affected by that morph from the right foot. And you're going to do exactly the same for the left foot. You're going to mirror the morph again, bend the foot up, change it to be right side, and then you're going to mirror left to right. There you go. Okay, and that did the same thing to the left side now. So you're going to use the geometry editor, select the left side, find the right morph, favorite it, and remove those vertices from favorites. There we go. Perfect. Okay, everything seems to be working quite well. I see a little poke through there. For the final step, I'm going to take my original OBJ that I morphed and import it as a shape L for the left side. And this is just to pull it back to be the exact shape when the feet are posed. Okay, now because it's the original OBJ, it's doing it on both sides, so I'll end up removing it from the right side when I'm done. Alright, so what I need to do is ERC freeze it. I'm going to set it to 0, yes. I'm going to go to the left foot. And then I'm going to bend it down, but only to 65. I'm not going to bother with the 75. Alright, I've got the foot selected, got the shoe left foot selected, and now I'm going to select bend and ERC freeze it, untick everything except the shape, and apply the foot pose. Okay, so now when I bend it down, works in all poses. You can see it affecting the right foot. I'll remove that in a second. But that's working fine in all rotations. I'm going to select the right foot, favorite the shape, and remove the vertices from deltas. Alright, so now the pose is working all by itself. Now I'm going to do exactly the same to the right side. Now I'm going to do the same with the other side. Shape L, rename it to shape R. Find the morph. Set it to 0 and 100. Accept. Dial it up. I'm going to remove it from the right side. Make sure that you don't have anything else favorited. Alright, now I'm going to select the right foot and ERC freeze it again. Perfect. Okay, so now when I apply a pose, because I'm using the foot pose controls, it's not resetting everything, and all I need to do is click on the foot and I can adjust the bend to fit what I want to do. Now this is just one way to rig high heels, but this is the way I found to be the easiest for me. Yeah. All done, working perfectly.